Good afternoon and welcome to the latest edition of Lunchtime Learning. I'm delighted and also honoured to be graced by Luke Sinclair, who, by popular demand, has been asked to be a guest on the podcast. So, Luke, long time we've done a podcast together. How are you doing?
It is. Yeah, good, thank you. Good.
Good. So, thank you for coming on. So I know the majority of people know you, but I don't know how many know your story. So what made you become an estate agent in the first place? What's your background?
Pure accident. Fell into it, and I blame my mum and dad. Is the very short version of it. So I was at university. I was stacking shelves in Sainsbury's. I was bread and cake boy. That was my aisle that I looked after. I had ultimate aims during the summer holidays of coming out with £1,000 in my bank account. That was then it was a lot of money to earn, and it was and you kind of killed yourself doing it throughout the course of the month, and you'd take your double times and bits and pieces. But and then mum and dad were just about to sell their house and move to a different village, and they said, "Oh, that this local agent is looking for weekend work. Why don't you?" And it was the agent, so they probably bribed the agent that they're going with at the time, which was a countrywide agent, Spencer's. So I ended up getting a weekend. So I was weekend boy there, whilst I was working full time in Banbury and doing my university course, full time university course as well at the same time.
So, how do you cope with all of that then? Joking aside, what made you to work that hard?
Out of necessity. I had a young family, had two stepdaughters at the time, so was having to help pay for that. Enjoyed it was the other thing, so I enjoyed working, and for I'd work during the summer holidays and things, but it's a variety of work that allowed me to do it. So that was commuting to Banbury from Leicester, so that was 48 miles each way, and then 16 hours of tutoring at the Montfort University plus the extra throughout the week. So when you look back now, you think, how on earth do I do it? How on earth did you do it? But you just do these things at the time. And then I think I had 1 in 4 Saturdays off at Spencer's, and I did, or was it every Saturday I did at Spencer's, but I had the Sunday off. I can't remember which way around it was, and then did that, eating my pot noodle, reading the Daily Mirror on the Sunday.
Okay, so you're busy on the Sunday, then it was worth opening on the Sunday.
Yeah. So I think it's if colleagues did that now within our business, I'd cry. But we've all been there and done different things in our previous lives.
Okay, so you left. So from Spencer's, what happened? You got the bug?
No, I didn't get the bug at all. I can remember the area manager when I first joined us. I did some weekday training, and he gave me a load of applicants to call. I think I called 2 of them out of the 30. A couple of hours later, he said, "Oh, did you ring them all?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Yeah, they're all still looking." So I only rang about 2 of the 30 for it. But then I got offered to do work at Knightsbridge, which is an independent. They wanted someone for Saturdays because no one really wanted to work Saturdays and Sundays. So I think it allowed me to have a bit more time off as well. So I went to work there, continued to work in Banbury whilst I finished my university. I think this was year 2 of university. Year 2 of university, or year 3, can't remember, because it was a 4-year course, 2 or 3 anyway. And then it was getting to the end of the university course. They allowed me to continue doing my university course, work full time for them, dip out of the office to finish the course off, and then I went as a sales negotiator full time and looked after the IT bits and pieces. So that was in 2002, and they say the rest is history.
Okay, so you've gone from a sales negotiator and IT
to another sales negotiator. to another sales
to
negotiator,
to running a business,
yeah,
owning a business. So
yep,
it must be loads of lessons along the way in 20 years. And also I'd love to discuss your knowledge of tech
yeah,
and
um,
your learning, constant
yeah.
learning.
So I had always had a passion for business, and I did business studies at GCSE, did at A level, did business at university, and I was just fascinated with how businesses were run. People like Richard Branson, it was always an inspiring figure. Um, Reading, well, I don't read a lot. I listen and audiobooks. Watch things like Dragon. Used to watch Dragon's Den. Used to watch. There was a BBC series called Back to the Floor, which is where the bosses would go back to the factory floor as such. My favourite one of that was when the boss of Robin Reliant went back to the factory floor of Robin Reliant in Tamworth. That was one of my aims as a child, to own a Robin Reliant. I've still not achieved that, but I will do. I've not told that to many people actually, but that is one of my ultimate aims. But coming back to estate agency, so coming up to 2005, the company had gone into lettings, and the lettings guy at the time wasn't making a great deal of it, and they're thinking, well, look, this is too much hassle. We're just going to get rid of lettings. And it obviously doesn't work for us. They got rid of the guy, and I just saw that as my opportunity to kind of crawl out from being a negotiator to think, right, this is how I can start climbing and making my way for myself. Had no idea about lettings, didn't even knew what a tenancy agreement was, but didn't know the ins and outs of things. But I then went on a steep learning curve to learn as much as I could about it. So I said, look, let me deal with it temporarily until you work out what you want to do with it. But in my mind, I'd said, well, that job's mine. I'd already, in my head, it was that job's mine, and that job's going to get me a company car. That job's going to get me a better salary. And that's how I'm going to start building things for myself. So, and that's what happened. So a month after doing it temporarily, they offered it to me full time. And up until 2013, when the lettings book was sold to Countrywide at the time, so built up to a really profitable business, 450 odd properties that we looked after and represented for the landlords. And that was kind of a bit of a turning point for me in my career, because I put everything, heart and soul, into building this lettings book up, and it was a bit like the rug being pulled beneath my feet, and it kind of took a massive chunk. It's like someone taking a massive chunk out of your life, and you're then not knowing what you want to do,
Okay.
and you
So
feel soulless.
how did you manage to build that lettings book up to 400 managed properties then?
By communication, by looking after people. Again, with my previous experiences, with other businesses, I've been able to, and it's just basics, just speaking to people, doing what you say you're going to do, and dealing with people as people. And there wasn't. I had no idea what I had no idea what I was doing with lettings. I very quickly upskilled myself. I enrolled in every NAA course. I drove down to London when there was the National Association courses. I think it was at the Barbican Centre, at other hotels. I did a client accounting. I literally did all of them, and the business supported me through that. And then in 2006, in the January, that's when we took on our first employee or colleague for lettings. So that was a girl called Clair. She's stayed with us for a long, long time. And that was the start of building the lettings up. And that was when we got to, so we were at 58 properties it was in the August of 2005. We got to 100 plus properties in the December. And that was the milestone to get a colleague. And it's like, yes, got a colleague to work with now. Then the next target was 200. Then the next target was 300. Then 400. And at the time it was, we're going to take you out for a meal out, that kind of thing. And they were the kind of like the reach targets for it.
Okay, brilliant. So dealing with people, being a people business, you built it up fantastically well from 450. They then pulled the rug from your feet. And then what happened?
There was a couple of options available at the time. I could have gone to Harrison Murray, a local agent, to be their group lettings controller, I think it was. But I stayed with Knightsbridge. I then went on to the sales side, and it's very different. Lettings is a different animal to sales, and I couldn't warm to sales as much as lettings. It was like, but that had gone. That had gone. It was never coming back. But it took me a long time, years and years and years, to accept that. And only just recently have I kind of really accepted it, about 3 years ago, with that. So it did make it did have a big dent on me. Again, I've not really said that to many people. So I then went out doing sales valuing. And so that was 2013, to the point where something's got to change into end of 2014. I built this lettings business up, and again, all the way along, I'd already thought, right, I'm going to own this business. I'm going to own part of it. I'm going to prove that I'm so invaluable. And when the lettings part had gone, that kind of reset itself. And then it came to the point and came to the crunch. And in 2015, I then became a part owner of Knightsbridge, because I wanted to take it on a different. It was a loss-making business at the time. In 2015, our average fee was 0.94% plus VAT. Our pipeline was very minimal. 2 offices out of 3 were losing money. So it wasn't great. I mean, if you'd looked at it with the full information, you probably would have thought you're mad for doing anything like this. But it was a challenge, and it kind of recollects with one of the podcasts that I've listened to recently about that don't just always look at the numbers.
Okay, so gone from 0.94%, where you're up to now?
Yeah, we're just over 1.5 plus that across the board on average.
Okay, how have you managed to do that?
By belief. Belief is a strong one. So knowing that we can charge it, upskilling, training, service proposition, what we provide to the clients, and demonstrating that language and dialogue with our clients, and having the right people on board. And one of the things, when part of the training that we did was with Julian, because I don't think I knew you at the time. So we used Julian O'Dell for a lot of trading. And I remember something that he said about this is now going to be a train journey, and everyone's on the train at the minute, but there's going to be stations along the way that people are going to hop off and new people are going to hop on. And that's kind of carried me all the way through. And I still use that analogy now. And I use that with the team, because I do say sometimes we are going to change things and it may not be the right thing for you, but we want everyone to stay with us. But if it's not right for you, that's fine, and we'll help you to be in a better place for it. Because we appreciate not everyone stays with us all the time. We'd love everyone to, but it's just not feasible. So they're the main things, and taking great inspiration. And that's where I started to find people like Tom Panos, Josh Fegan, the $1 Million Agent podcast. I mean, me and Aaron, the other director, we would listen to that, and then we'd send messages to each other to say, we've just listened to this and this line here and that line there and things. And you get so excited. I mean, when we found it, there was like 80 episodes to listen to. So it was great. It was like binge watching a Netflix episode kind of thing, in a geeky estate agency way. And then you start to expand, and then you think, and then I think one of the first people to network with was Richard Morris, because he ran something around estate agency marketing on Twitter. So yeah, I had something like the Estate Agency Marketing Club or something like that. So I started to.
Estate agent,
Sorry.
estate agent
Mindset.
mind.
Yeah, he had that as well. But where he'd share like marketing ideas of different estate agents whilst he was at Hartley's. So, and then you start expanding further, and then it's like, hold on, they do this thing called AREC, and they mention it on the $1 Million Agent podcast, and it's like, I'm going to go there because they're doing all these great things. They're charging 2%. They've got a great lifestyle. We're doing things that they're telling us to do, and we're seeing great results of it. This thing must be like heroin for estate agents, but legal kind of thing. So it was like, right, at the time it's to Simon and Aaron, right, I want to go to Australia. This is how much it's going to cost. And I want to go. And I'll be there for 6 days in total. Yeah, fine. Okay. And then in the May of 2016 is when I went out to Australia for the first time. Went with Aaron, and literally we went out for 6 days, 6 full days there. So there was a bit of travelling, and came back and went to our first AREC over there, and that was just life changing.
In what way?
One, travel from a personal perspective is the travel aspect, because I hadn't done a lot of traveling up until that point. And 2 was there's so much information out there, and we're only scratching at the surface in terms of training, and it doesn't always have to be estate agency training. Whereas before, up until that point, we'd had Julian, and Julian's very, very good, and it'd been about estate agency, but they had speakers that weren't estate agents. I can't remember at the time who it was that was non-estate agency now, but they had just a general speaker, like they've had James Clair, Atomic Habits, there. They've had the guy from Wolf of Wall Street, can't remember his name now. But again, he was there a couple of years ago, and it's all relatable because again, he talks about staying in your lane. And it will come back to me at some point, and I'll just have a Tourette's moment and just blurt it out.
Gordon Belfeld.
No, it wasn't him. He has been. I think he has been at AREC. Matthew McConaughey. That's it. Matthew McConaughey. Yeah. So he talks about staying in your lane. Mel Robbins and the 5-second rule. That kind of one. So, and then you get introduced to people like Tom Ferry, and you think, well, we've looked at Australia, but now there's America to look at. You think, wow, that was in that year that you came with me, and what was that, 2018?
2018, yeah.
2018, and it's like, then you get introduced to someone like Tom Ferry, and you think, oh my word, there's another part, the other side of the world, and he's exceptional, and it's like, and you think, all of a sudden you think you're in the middle of a cult kind of celebration when he's getting you all up on your feet and high energy, but it keeps you focused and engaged, and then you start bringing it back to the team, and you can then see it into action, and it gives you great satisfaction, and it's like a massive legal high from it.
So I've got a couple of questions then to ask you. One, where does this appetite for knowledge, self-improvement come from?
Just that there's 2: wanting to be better, and also the fear of failing. And up until recently, it wasn't until someone introduced me to the term imposter syndrome that you then start to think, yeah, okay, yeah, they're the traits. So it's that fear of failing that you'll either be caught out because you're no good, or it's tomorrow it's all going to be pulled away from you. It's not going to be there. The market's going to change. Again, perhaps you see that with being interested in business, that all of a sudden you can see, like the Industrial Revolution, all of a sudden that changed things for manufacturing that was never going to come back. We know that AI is very similar. Things aren't coming back. COVID changed a lot of things, and some things have come back, but perhaps we've let them back in, but other things haven't come back. And it's that evolution that you, if you don't evolve, you are just going to get left behind, and then you're going to become obsolete, and you're going to be like a dinosaur. And and we know what happened to the dinosaurs; they didn't survive. So it's, do you really want that? So I suppose it's that. But the biggest one is fear of failing.
Okay. The second thing then, following up, is your action and implementation, because you take loads of action. As you said, you got very excited with all the scripts. You've taken action that your average fee's gone from 0.94% to averaging now 1.5%. You're making it happen. Why do you think people are these shelf developers? They may go along and put all their notes on the shelf and culminate loads of dust, whereas you are very happy to come, test it, try it. If it works, fantastic. If it doesn't work, at least you've tried it. How do you get people to buy into that action and implementation?
And there's been loads that don't work, and loads that sometimes you think, okay, this is too much friction, pushing water uphill. But you have got to be disciplined to just keep going forward and going forward and going forward. I think a lot of people now just want a magic bullet. They want something to be able to go along to a training session and think, right, I can do that one thing, and that's going to transform my business. But it doesn't. It doesn't happen. I think I always remember the phrase that Tom Panos used, is that it takes 10 years to become an overnight success. And again, with a state agency, we don't see real benefits until maybe 6, 9, 12 months, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years down the line. The Google review that you get today may not result in business now, but it may result in business in 6 months' time when you're in front of someone and said, actually, I read your Google reviews, and that one from Mr. Jones that he left to say that you helped with his mother's sale, that really resonated with me, because I'm selling my mum's house and she's now passed away. And you just never know. So it's not wanting instant gratification. It's being able to play the long, as Gary Vee says, play the long game. Again, Gary Vee's another inspiration, is that don't just expect to have something, put it into place now, because the first time you use a script and dialogue, you'll mess it up, you'll get it wrong, but you just got to keep trying it. You've got to perfect it. I'm not a massive one for role play because it makes me cringe, but sometimes we have done a little bit of role play. But if you mess up, that's fine. People mess up on the football field. I mean, how many times has Harry Kane missed a penalty? Probably plenty. And yet he should score all of them, but he doesn't. So it's only the same as us messing up a bit of script and dialogue. But again, it's putting your own twist on it. It's not becoming a robot with it.
100%. 100%. So you are known as Mr. Tech. You built your own software system. Don't be modest. You built your own software system. You're always refining it. You're always looking at ways to improve. Again, you talked about at the start the interest in IT. So how did that develop? And where do you get that creativity from? Because you are exceptional at that.
Because no one else did it, again, it was an area that I just fell into, and growing up was interested in computers, taking them apart, putting them back together and then not working again, blaming someone else that they didn't work. It wasn't my fault, mum and dad kind of thing. And then someone comes to you, they've got a problem, and then you kind of just make a bit of a job out of it. But then you start to see, well, actually, this can do a lot of the heavy lifting for us. This can make us look really, really good. So it actually benefits the customer. The customer gets a consistent level of service, the consistency around the message that they're getting. It's easy for the person to use. It makes the person look really good, and it kind of just carries on from there. And it's just how a little idea can then evolve into something really, really massive, and you get excited about it, and then you put it into action. You see a customer using it, and they love it because you knew that it was right. And I suppose it's like that doesn't tick everyone's box. Someone may not be interested in that, but someone may be really, really interested in taking really, really good photos. But having no interest in ideas for technology. So it's just individual passions that people have, and I suppose it's what evolves and what drives you.
So you mentioned AI. How are you using that in your agency?
So we are using it.
Yes.
So the easiest one is that we use it in our reply to our Google reviews. So when we get Google reviews, we reply to them, good and bad ones, and we use it to help us with that. We also use it to help us actually build software. So we've just built an integration with Street. So Street is the CRM that we use, and we just used it to help build this integration with an email platform called ActiveCampaign that allows us to do nurture journeys and things like that. So again, AI has helped us with that. It helps us with image enhancements, with the use of Photoshop. So we can draw around an object. If it's maybe a wheelie bin, we can draw around it and say, just type in it, remove wheelie bin, and it removes the wheelie bin from the picture. No, doesn't always work, but it works a lot of the time. We are just about to use it with creating video and audio for podcasts of our blogs. So that will help us with that. Descriptions, it helps us with inspiration. We don't just use it solely for descriptions, but we use it to help us with inspiration for descriptions, to vary the content up. So we're probably only scratching the surface with AI, and obviously Street has got AI into it, and so does things like Spectre and bits and pieces. So we use it a lot.
Okay, lovely. So what else tech-wise are you using that's made a massive difference to Knightsbridge?
So we use what's called a WhatsApp sender. So it allows us to send personalized WhatsApps to clients rather than distribution lists. So with our Landlord's First Club, with our mailing list, we can send out personalized WhatsApps. There is a little bit of what I call heavy lifting because it isn't fully automated, but it's about being personal and targeted to the audience that want to receive it. All of our team have iPads when they're out in the field. So when they're in the living room, they've got the big iPad Pro to demonstrate maybe our success, maybe how to help them if they're looking to buy somewhere. The videos that we use, the photographs that we use, so rather than have lots and lots of paper, we just got the iPad that they can use. Again, they can access the CRM whilst they're out and about. Again, that's nothing revolutionary, but again, it's empowering them with that right technology to do that. Same with the viewing representatives when they're in the house with the clients. They've got iPads so they can access the council tax band, the EPC rating, local school information, broadband mobile speeds. They've got access to all of that at their fingertips, and that's all on our website as well. Again, this is ahead of the new information that's required when you come to sell. So we've had that in place on our website for over a year now. So it was ahead of that because, again, people wanted to know that information. And with our viewers have had iPads, since the iPad 2 came out. So years and years and years ago where we've had similar information to that. Slack is a great one for instant messaging amongst the business. So Slack is integral to what we do and use. So and we have different channels set up. So we've got a channel, I've just set one up actually yesterday, called Learning. And it's where anyone can post in, but I posted in a podcast that I listened to yesterday, and I was so excited. I actually listened to it on Saturday night walking the dog, and I got to the front door and I wanted to actually go back out. I thought, no, I'm going to stop it now because it'll give me the motivation to then take the dog in the morning because I want to finish listening to it, in which case I've got 20 minutes left of this episode. It's an hour and 35 long, but it was great. But I fell out of love with podcasts, and now I've fallen back in love with it since Finding Stephen Bartlett. And if anyone hasn't listened to it, it's the one with the CEO of Airbnb. Absolutely amazing podcast, and how they've been through rough times, and how the actual name came about. It's got very much similarities with Richard Branson and Virgin, and how it all came about, what they did during COVID. Again, 80% of the business revenue was just wiped off within the first 8 weeks of COVID, and what they did, and those kind of things. So, but we still make use of the telephone. That's the key thing, is that there's still a big emphasis on not just messaging people. Again, we've got to accept, and I had this conversation with Vicky from Location just before Christmas, when I went down to see them, and we've got to accept people do want to be communicated in different ways now. It's not just a phone call, but is that WhatsApp? Is that text message? Is it email? And it's understanding that what is the best medium for your clients. And it may be that in the north it's text message, in London it's WhatsApp, in Cornwall it's email. Again, it depends upon again, if it's international, is it WeChat because it's Chinese buyers, for example, because WhatsApp's banned? And again, if it's Americans, is it WhatsApp, kind of thing? So, but we still, again, there's a big emphasis on phones, and we have structured days. So we do 9 to 9:30 is a bit of a catch up. 9:30 to 10:30 is business generation for vendors. 10:30 to 12:30 is applicant matching, so dealing with our applicants. And during that time, our colleagues are out of the telephone, so they don't receive incoming calls. We have our first impressions that take the incoming calls and pop a message into something called ClickUp, which is on the TV screens in each office, so they can see the message boards building. And then the afternoon is for the colleagues to do so. Could be feedback, could be offer negotiation, vendor management, all of those kind of things. If they want to do more applicant matching, that's fine, but that's what every office does during that structured time for it. And that, a lot of that was taken then from my visit to Foxtons when I bidded on the Agents Given internship with Foxtons, because again, they have structured sessions, again, from what Peter Rowling's talked about. Again, lots of learnings from Peter Rowling's. Absolute great guy. If you get an opportunity to spend a bit of time with him, very inspirational, and a lot of value to provide.
God, you're providing so much value. I've got so many questions I want to carry on asking you, if that's okay.
Yeah, no, go for it. I've not got anything in my diary today, so I'm pretty good.
So just something that's occurred to me. You talked about Vicky at Location. You talked about going to Foxtons, and I know you bid a lot of money for Agents Giving, which was incredible because you made a massive difference for that. You've talked about going to Arik. You've talked about going to Tom Ferry. You've got this constant thirst for knowledge. You're part of the masterminds. You're always going into businesses to learn. Okay. One, how amenable do you find these agencies? And you talked about Peter going into Foxtons. I understand you bid on that, but going to see Vicky and having a conversation with Vicky, what's the benefit of? And I know you go and see other agents. What's the benefit of you? Because agents don't collaborate, do they? They all hate each other.
That's the perception, but there are some really good agents out there. And again, it's Tom Panos says this: if you hang around with 4 dickheads, you're going to become the 5th dickhead. But if you hang around with 4 great agents, you're going to become the 5th great agent. So it's sometimes resetting who your network is. And Josh Vegan talks about it, is that sometimes you have to have someone that's there to ground you, someone that you want to maybe aspire to in your line of business. But then there's also people from whether that's a fitness perspective, whether it's from a mental health perspective, whether or not it's from a personal life perspective. So again, it's having relevant people around you. So, but again, there's lots of agents that want to do better. There's a lot out there that have a first. So Vicky is exceptional. Location is an exceptional agent. Assad is just out of this world. Lovely guy, great guy, head screwed on really, really well. And he runs an awesome business there. But everyone there is on the same path. There's no one kind of veering off there as well. So it's a great team there. But again, it hasn't necessarily always got to be a state agency. Just tapping, me and you had the privilege in going to Timpson's, and that all came about by just writing an email to James Timpson. I think it started off as a tweet actually, and then it turned into an email. I can't meet you, but Janet, head of people, or happiness director, I think, director of happiness, wasn't it?
Happiness, yeah.
Yeah, she'd love to meet you, and it's like great. So we ended up with spending a whole day there at Timpson HQ. It's like this person's given up a whole day of their time, and if you had to value that from what that, let's say, so what are Timpson's going to get out of seeing me and Stephen? Nothing, but they might do, because you don't know where that networking, that relationship can lead to at some point in the future. It may not pay off instantly, and it may never pay off. But let's say her time in that business for that day is £300. It's probably a lot more than that. Let's say it's £500. They've given that money away to me and Stephen to come up and see them on. And they know they're not going to get anything back, but it's about the moral and the ethics of the company then as well, and that matches with what that company is all about. And it's the same with location, and their moral and ethics about things, and wanting to help people and to become a better version of themselves than what they were yesterday. And there's lots and lots of businesses, because everyone can get little nuggets from different people, even if it's just simple things. So my big takeaway from Timpson's, and it may sound really minor, is they've got key-shaped door wedges. So I've bought key-shaped door wedges for our place, and it's there was more than that, but that was the big takeaway thing for me. But people comment on that when they come to whether or not it's colleagues or new colleagues. Oh, I love that little touch down there. About it, and all of these things start to then make a big overall impression and package when someone comes in, and it's your attention to detail. One of the things I was listening to in the podcast at the weekend was the creativity side of someone, and from a business owner's or colleague's perspective, is that if they're coming up with an idea and they want to implement that idea or doing something, they should treat it like you're an artist and you're Van Gogh or Picasso, and you're signing your name in the bottom corner of whatever you do to put your name to it. So you're doing the best possible version of that, so you can be proud to put your name in the bottom corner of that painting, or in that work, or in that email, or that inventory that you're doing, or that valuation that you're going out to.
Brilliant. So something else you talked about that you mentioned, I've written down, if you're happy to talk about it, is the Landlord's First Club. So again, what is that all about, please?
So Landlord's First is a thing an inspiration from Josh Fegan, and it's about it's a free to join club. People can join on the website. They can scan a QR code in our office. They fill in a little form, name, number, email address, and what would they like information on. So do they want news on investor events? Have they got an appetite for buy-to-let properties, or do they want legislation updates? The biggest area is the legislation updates. Again, that's the biggest evolving part of the lettings market at the moment. But obviously, as agents, do we want to be giving that information to landlords? We want to be selling them properties. But again, this comes back to long-term relationships with clients, and Chris Watkin talks about it, and everyone, you talk about it, and nurturing those relationships as well. A landlord, at some point, with all the legislation changes, is going to get to the point where they have not got a clue with the latest changes, and they're going to want someone. If they're not got an agent of choice, they're going to want an agent of choice, and you need to be that agent. And if you can nurture that landlord over a period of time by giving them free information, helpful information that makes them aware about their obligations, because most landlords probably don't realise how much is actually involved in renting a property. And as us as agents sometimes don't do a great job in actually demonstrating that to landlords, to say, this is what we're doing for you, Mr. or Mrs. Landlord, on your behalf, renting, looking after your property, or this is what you need to be made aware of. And it could be simple things like condensation advice for this time of year. Big issue in rented properties, even more so with the whole cost of living, electricity, gas prices, and people turning the heating off and stuff like that. But it could be, come the summer, gardening tip advice. It could be about referencing advice, right to rent. Have you the new how to rent guide has changed? Have you served this on your tenant now? By the way, come onto our website. You can download a free copy and send it on to your tenant. Just make sure they've maybe signed to say they've received it, or you drop it on an email, print that email off, and put it in your file to prove that you've served it to them, kind of thing. Because all of us landlords lead busy lives, and this is normally a second income for them, and it's a way of nurturing those relationships. So that's our landlord's first program in a nutshell, and we do that via WhatsApp. We don't do it via email. We do it via WhatsApp, and again, it's a way of being able to engage. It's not all about saying, I've sent you this, now can I have your rental business? It's about nurturing them, and particularly during COVID, it kind of blew up, because the amount of landlords that all of a sudden thought, well, Christ, my tenant's not going to pay rent. The tenants aren't paying rent, because that's what was the courts are in a state of crisis. So they had no one to go to, and then all of a sudden you become that linchpin in connecting the two together for it. So it is, again, it's just a slow burn. It's being there ready for them when they need you, and sometimes you won't hear from anyone. Then all of a sudden they'll pop up and say, hi, I've been reading your messages. I'm sorry I haven't replied, but this is all now getting too much for me, or can you help me with this? I only want a let only. Okay, that's fine. Obviously you have conversations, you try to see if you can convert it to manage, but if you can't, you've then got a let only landlord that you can look after.
Brilliant. So one thing you're very good at, landlord evenings. So again,
Yes.
would you be happy to share how to, what does a successful landlord evening look like? How do you put one together?
So again, we just fumbled our way around it. We just contacted all of our database to say, we're putting on this landlord event, and the main focus is around legislation updates. And normally it's around when there's going to be some legislation changes. So like when the smoke alarm legislation came in, when the electrical legislation came in. So we had one, we haven't done one recently, but it was when we had selective licensing coming in parts of Leicester. So that was that was an important one. So again, there's not a lot of information out there, and our job is to kind of cut through all of that to make it ABC simple for them, and to earn the trust. And most of the landlords that we do get, some landlords that turn up that we already represent, because they still want to become confident in their knowledge. But we don't purposefully, like some people say, well, actually get some of your own landlords so then they can network in there to recommend your service. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. We don't do it with that intention. Some landlords turn up and it's great to see them. And you hear them saying, yeah, you should be using these guys. That's great. But we don't do it with that intention. It's about becoming the go-to expert for lettings in Leicester because of that. And we get in excess of 100 landlords turn up to each event. But it is about having something that's got some value to it. If we've ran them too frequent and there's not enough of a hook there, then there isn't the information, there isn't the value for them to come along.
Okay, thank you. You are absolutely phenomenal at the stuff you do in your community. Absolutely amazing. Why is it so important to you, and why should it be important to agents to be helping their community? And you've been doing it for ages.
Yeah, well, it actually came up 3 years to the day. I decided, and this was when everyone was homeschooling during COVID, so and they were still homeschooling. So 3 years today, and it's like, and there was this big crisis that people didn't have devices at home, and we at the time we lived in a world where you think surely everyone's got a tablet or everyone's got a computer at home, and then the stark reality sets in that actually not many people have. So I popped down to Argos and brought 60 tablets from our own money, and ordered 50. And at the time, Amazon would only let you order 50 tablets at a time online. And I had those 50 delivered to the school that I went to when I was growing up in a place called Fleckney, because they asked on one of the Facebook groups, and they couldn't believe it. Why are you doing it? Well, because I'm where I am now, and that's not being big-headed, but I'm fortunate to be where I am now because of what you did for me as a school. So it's part of being able to pay that forward. And it's nice to be nice. It's the world works so much better if everyone is nice to each other, and if we can help other people that are less fortunate to give them a bit of a leg up. So I mean, there's a girl on one of the Facebook groups at Christmas just gone, and we had some spare iPads because we've just upgraded them. And she just put a bit of a plea post to say, look, I can't afford to get anything for the kids at Christmas. Is there anyone local that can help? So I dropped her a message saying, oh, drop me a direct message. I didn't want to put it in the group. Drop me a direct message and we'll see what we can do. So I said, look, I've got an iPad, and it's not the latest one, but it's the second from latest one. I'll clean it all off, have a look on Amazon. How old are they? I think the child was 8. What case would they like? So they got one of these tough cases, and so it doesn't have to necessarily always be show. You can do it on the QT. And I said, oh, how many children have you got? She's got 3 children. The other one's 10. This was for the 10-year-old, actually. The 8-year-old's got an Amazon Fire tablet. I said, look, I have got another one. So rather than stop the arguing, but it's got a cracked screen, this Fire tablet, I said, here's 2 iPads. They're just sitting here gathering dust. You can have them. And she just couldn't believe it. But what do you want? I said, nothing. I said, I'll buy you new chargers and new cables, so at least they're all safe. But because then those children, you never know that they might be the next estate agent that's coming through our door to be interviewed. They might be the next person that solves another pandemic in 20 years' time. You just never know. And sometimes people in life just do need a bit of a leg up if they're falling on hard times. But it is also great fun. It's great fun to do Santa's Grottos every year. We've now become the place that has Santa in Clown Park, that has Santa in Oadby every November and every December, and we support the local charities for it. And it's becoming a given that, and we have people say, your Santa is the only Santa that the children will want to come to. They don't want to go to any other Santa. We don't charge a foot. We charge £5. A couple of years we increased it from £4 to £5, but they get a present, they get a photo. The photo gets sent to them in the post with a frame. They get to meet Santa. We don't take any money out of it for running expenses. The full £5 goes to the charity. We pay for the photo. We pay for the selection box or present that they have. We decorate the office. We hire the van to do it because we haven't got any space to store the desk. We turn everything into a grotto. It's great fun. It brings the team on board with it. We give them a day off in lieu for it if they work the full day. But there's other times throughout the year, and it could be dressing up as Olaf in the local shopping centre at Christmas time. I haven't done it last year. I have done it in previous years, just rattling a bucket. Paw Patrol, dressing up as Chase or Marshall. At the local motor fair, we've hired in Trotter's free-wheel van. So I kind of did come close to a free-wheel van.
But you're almost.
Yeah, I have come close, but we hired an imitation Robin Reliant for the local motor fair, so people could have their photo with it. We got Rade to dress up as Del Boy, Keith to dress up as Rodney. And again, it's all, I don't know, it's good. I just find it good fun. And if you can have fun at the same time as raising money for other people, then even better.
Luke, I'm incredibly grateful for your time. You are an incredibly generous, helpful, considerate person who continues to inspire everybody in the property industry. So thank you for your time. Thank you for everything you do. It's a pleasure knowing you. And thank you for all the support you've given me over the years, because you've been absolutely incredible. So thank you very much. And if people want to get hold of you, Luke, if they don't know where, how do they do that?
They can find me at one of our offices. They can find me on Facebook. I only go on TikTok to order stuff on TikTok Shop, so they won't find me much on TikTok doing anything. LinkedIn, they can message me. They can send me a message on my mobile, which is 07917 899 495. WhatsApp or text is fine. They can email me. All the email address is on our website. But it's also been an honour to have known you for the time that I've known you, and you do an awful lot for the industry. So I know you don't like people singing your praises, but you do an awful lot for the industry, and to help people. So equally as much thanks back to you, Mr. Brown.
And on that note, please like it, share it, and tell all your friends about it. And thank you very much. So thank you. If you got any other guests that you would like on the show, because by popular request, Luke, you were here, please get in touch with me. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Thank you.